Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thursday here at the Damage Report. A little pre-show action for you. Appreciate all of you who are already here. I've got a lot to cover so far, or today, on the pre-show, including some interesting, difficult questions, controversial topics that I want all of you to weigh in on. And then, do you know what we have? We have Michael Shore coming up on the show today. And Michael's got a lot that we're going to be talking about, including the revelations from the probe into Donald Trump and the DOJ. We've got updates on the Texas abortion law. Manchin and Cinema, each in their own ways, find a way to insult the hell out of us. So that's going to be fun. And no Brett today. We thought that there might be Brett. We got Michael instead. Brett was on earlier this week, helping us out. But if you would hit the like button, that would be great as we proceed in these stories. I'm going to start off with a little bit of good news. So normally we do start, hold on. So Wayne asked John, did you mention the Squad Game? No. Is that like a parody thing of Squid Game? I don't know. Is there Dragon Squad games? But yes, I am early. I'm trying to be early if I can. But let's start off with COVID. So normally we start off with, people who needlessly die as a result of COVID after being really like arrogant online about how COVID's not a big deal and it's a complete tragedy and everything. So we now have some information. We do appear to be moving in the right direction, albeit slowly and too late to eventually get out of the wave that we're in right now. So the daily average now versus the daily average 2 weeks ago of COVID cases is down about 22%. It is still over 100,000 cases a day, still too high, but it is going down. And in fact, now, that had been sort of true for a couple of weeks, have been very slowly going down. Also, deaths are starting to go down, about 13% again, daily average versus 2 weeks ago. But it's still killing 1,800 people per day. And so I do want to focus on this as good news because it is good news. But let's bear in mind what that good news is. The good news is that more than a year and a half into the pandemic, we're still losing a 9/11 every 2 days. Year and a half into the pandemic, more than half a year into widespread, easy, free access to vaccines. Still losing so many people, and we still have well over a third of the country that just ain't interested or aren't gonna get it ever. It's devastating. The numbers are going down though, so that is good news, I guess. Yes, and so in terms of children 5 to 11 getting the vax, there's been some updates on that. Some of the companies saying that they want that to happen. Of course, got to get the CDC involved because, well, of course, the companies are going to want to do that. But yeah, getting the kids vaccinated is obviously good, especially since it looks like we're going to be in this thing for a long time. Let's get a jump on the kids, I suppose. Anyway, okay, so I have two questions for you, and I want to know what you think about this. So the first one involves a topic that I take very seriously, which is dogs. And it's about a woman at Yellowstone at the Maiden's Grave Spring. Wow. So apparently, her dog jumped out of a car and into the spring. Very hot water. I mean, it might have been very difficult for the dog to know when the dog jumped in, but like, oh God, you're near hot springs and your dog gets out of the car. So the dog jumps in. And then the woman jumps in. So 20-year-old woman dove into the spring to get her dog out. She needed to then be pulled out. Apparently her father was able to pull her out. She suffered burns. So burns, the water was over 200 degrees hot. She suffered burns from her shoulders to her feet. So, like, thankfully her, she didn't put her head in there. I mean, possibly if she had, she might not have ever gotten out of there. But, so she was able to be pulled out. The dog did later die, because obviously, the entirety of its body was burned. This isn't like, the only burn that happens from these. Back in September, a 19-year-old park concessions worker was burned by Old Faithful. Second and third degree burns on 5% of her body, which sounds like it could have been a lot worse. More than 20 people have died after entering or falling into hot springs there. I remember a case not that long ago. So my question to you, your pet jumps into the hot spring. You don't have perfect information. You know that you're at Yellowstone. The dog jumps in. Do you jump in? Do you wave goodbye to Fido? The dog was dead when it jumped in. Eric Townsend says. Zero says, nope, sorry for the dog, but I'm not jumping in. Marcus Otero says, yes, Marcus Otero is jumping in. Aldwich, no. Lena Peak says, don't do this to us, John. No. You clicked on this, and sure, it didn't reference any of this. It's very similar to Squid Game, actually. It's the illusion of consent for these questions. Do you jump in after your pet? Or, because either way, it's devastating. But having to say, yeah, my dog got out, jumped in the hot spring, that was it, never saw it again. That's a devastating experience. It's a devastating thing to have to tell people. Do you jump in? No. I'm seeing a lot of no's. We keep ours leashed. That's not the question. I didn't ask if Kenny... Oh, wait, sorry. No, it wasn't Kenny. Matthew. Kenny says, yes, I'd jump in to get the dog. Matthew says we keep ours leashed. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. She probably does too. But it gets in this hypothetical. Did John get lost and walk in the studio? I did, actually. Yes, I'd jump, Rachel says. Hild says, I'd jump. My dog would never jump out of the car, Spicy Dragon says. And yet that's not the question. Michelle says he would for me. Oh, mine wouldn't. When I do my work, like I do workouts with a personal trainer sometimes at home, and I'm dead at the end, just laying down, and I will exaggerate it to try to get my dog to see if he'll come and help me. He don't care. Richard Rose says I'd push someone else in and tell them to get my dog, or I'm not pulling them out. That is some Squid Game stuff right there. Amy Rose says yes. Quite a bit of no's. Okay, I want to see. So Michelle had avoided the answer. I want to see. And Lena, I didn't see your answer. Arthur Ashbrook says, yes, I'm going in. Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. I love two things. Well, three things. I love my dog. I love heroism. And I love heroic sacrifice. That's the thing that gets me in books and movies and all of that. That said, my dog has had a good long life. That's it at that point for the dog if he jumps into a hot spring. I'm not jumping into a hot spring. That sounds devastating. Yes, Chub Toad, if it's a wife, it's a different thing. You gotta try to do that. Lena Peak says, I'm abstaining to make a political statement. That political statement is that Lena Peak has joined the Cowardice Party. That's a third party for you. I have a book coming out. It's called Cowardice. I'm going to be interviewed on Tucker Carlson by it. That's the party for Lena Peak. What if it was Jank? Would you jump in to save your boss? Jank's a strong guy. I have faith in Jank that he could get out himself. I don't think he needs me to jump into the hot spring to get him, but there's a few people. Anyway, he'll be fine. He can swim. It's a dog. That's something else. But yeah, no, I don't think that I would, unfortunately. Sorry. Okay, well, don't worry. That's not the question, John. Oh, no, don't turn it around on me. Don't turn it around on me. Wayne watched Anna's debate. We're going to be discussing it on the show, actually. Okay. Jen could make great... Oh, Jesus. If Jen can handle Rogan, he can handle a hot spring. That's a great point. No, Brett isn't hosting the show solo tomorrow. No, Jen's going to be just fine. Okay, so I have an easier question for you, for those of you who don't want to answer about the dog or whatever. So I saw this headline, Hungry Photographer Deletes All Photos and Leaves After Being Denied Food at Wedding. So this person apparently is not a wedding photographer. This person photographs dogs, I believe, and was tapped to do some photography at this wedding. I think they knew the person who was running it, and they wouldn't even let them eat. It's like, you're doing me a favor, no, I'm going to work you. Did they do the right or the wrong thing? Deleting all the photos and just getting the hell out of there. Like, okay, I hate the disrespect of the worker. I do. But oh man, I mean, you only, like, that was the photos. Like, I mean, but people will take photos. Maybe that's enough. Yeah, I don't think this is as controversial. Yeah. You gotta show respect. You do. I will say at my wedding, man, the food was good. Oh, we had mac and cheese. Oh, it was really good. Let's see. Enviro Pro Dragon says, John, have you read Will Wright's Cradle series? If you like sci-fi, you'll love this shit. I'm addicted. I will leave it open. I have not. Marcus Otero says, pay for labor or you have no leverage. That's a good point. If you're like, well, I don't know what the pay thing was going on. I don't. So it's possible that there was still pay. Let me bring this open really fast because I want to be fair. But you do deserve break. You do deserve to eat. $250 for a 10-hour event. That's $25 an hour for a 10-hour event. Jesus. My God. Mine was not a 10-hour event, I'll say that. Anyway, Forbesilla says, for the formal dances we did, we paid our photographers in food and beverage. They volunteered, so we ensured they were taken care of. That sounds fair. If they volunteered, that's totally fine. 10 hours, you get to eat. You get to eat. Anyway, weddings are like $20 a plate. I think mine was like $50 a plate or something. It wasn't cheap, but it was good. Oh, I had a great wedding. It was great. Anyway, okay, there are your hypotheticals. I think we can all agree, well, like 70% seem to agree that you can get another dog. And you know what? I love that dog too. And the photographer probably did the right thing. Let me ask you a question now. So there's this article in The Guardian about eco-anxiety, fear of environmental doom weighing on young people. It's a new poll about how many young people feel this sort of dread about what's happening to our ecosystem, to the climate, and the effect that it can have on you. There's a 2020 survey of child psychiatrists in England. They're psychiatrists who deal with children, not children who are psychologists. That's funny, though. Showed that 57% feel distressed about the climate crisis and the state of the environment. Now, this has led to a couple different things. Right-wingers saying, oh, they're hyping it up. Why are they so worried? Shouldn't they be? Shouldn't they be that they actually pay attention to this? Maureen says, I blame Greta, jokingly, I'm sure. But I credit Greta for making sure that young people know that this is not just a thing for older people. But also, like, should we be surprised by this? I feel like the older you get, the more you check out of some of these types of things. You get more focused on your own bullshit. Younger people love stuff. They love dinosaurs. They love animals. They love this world that we live in. They want to experience it. They want to go to camp and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not super surprised by this. So scale of 1 to 10. So give me your number. How much eco-anxiety do you feel generally? Dread about the state of our climate and the likelihood that something's going to be done about it. And by the way, hit the like button if you haven't already. I see a couple 9s coming, 7, 10, 8, 8, 8, 10, 9, 550. That's not in the range. Jason has a 1. Okay, so not everyone. 40%. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 7s to 10s, but not everybody. 11. Okay. Wayne's kind of freaked out. Not too much. Okay. Yeah, look, I feel like I can be particularly honest with the pre-show audience. Part of covering this stuff, I think, is I feel an obligation to keep people invested and make sure that they, know what they can do. And there are things we can do. We cannot forget this. There's not just wrecked ecosystem or not. It's a spectrum. That said, I think maybe it's been pretty clear when I talk about climate change and environmentalism and pollution and all that. And I'm going to be doing that today. And meanwhile, I have less faith than I did a few years ago, than I did before Trump. I warned, like, how many times did I warn? I mean, maybe you weren't watching back then, but when we were debating, like, people were debating, like, maybe it's better to have Trump. One of the things I said over and over again was, you did tell it to the planet, tell it to the climate. 4 more years of doing absolutely nothing, and I think I was right. And now maybe we'll do something. Like, there are components in the infrastructure bill. Maybe, with Paris and all that, but it ain't like it's not 100% better. I'll say it's obviously better. We can't forget that. But so yeah, I do feel a little bit of existential dread, and it's getting worse. K. Jackson says, AKA Kathleen, I'm the worst. I always forget to hit like until Dragon Daddy tells me. That's okay. I don't mind reminding. A good number of you have. Not enough. Not enough, but some. Something that probably should be, and meanwhile, Moderna has announced that they will be building a vaccine factory in Africa. A new state-of-the-art facility would eventually produce up to 500 million doses a year of Moderna's vaccine. Yves, thank you. The plant will, in time, also produce other Moderna vaccines. Okay, so simultaneously, that's good, obviously. That's a lot of vaccines, clearly. Moderna is one that you do need 2 shots for, so that's enough to fully inoculate 250 million people from this one thing. So that's good. On the other hand, they're planning to build. Like, you're gonna build it, and then it will eventually produce vaccines over time. We have a pandemic right now. Like, and it's not like, man, the pandemic started on Monday, or our knowledge of the need for people outside of a couple of the wealthiest countries in the world to get vaccines. We finally acknowledged that last week. What do you mean you're planning now? We had how many months pre-vaccine pandemic? We knew how many people there were in the world. You couldn't have started the process then? Even if you'd started it once we rolled out the vaccine, you could be done by now. I don't know for sure. I honestly don't know, but it's conceivable. You could have started earlier than that. Every step of the way, people who should have known better waited until the last goddamn second to do something about this. And look, this is a company, okay? It's not a government. I think we can be more mad in some ways, less mad in others about what they're doing, considering the fact that they're not a government. But while it is obviously great to inoculate hundreds of millions of people in Africa and abroad, and God only knows what percentage of the vaccines will stay in Africa, how many lives will be lost between now and when it starts? And I say the same thing to Biden with the limited quantity of vaccines that he's helping to distribute, around the world. How many lives will die, or how many lives will be lost that could have been saved if we had done the bare minimum at the time it should have been done? Forbesilla says, AK is in crisis standard of care. I keep seeing it in my attorney's time entry this week. It's very scary to me. I'm worried for my family. Yeah, I think we were actually talking about that. They're trying to reinstitute some of the mandates, and people are freaking out, even though it's so rough there. So Brett said no, huh? No. Brett did not say no. He was perfectly willing to do the show, but, he already did the show. He's doing a lot of other stuff. Billy Bear the Bear Dragon says, John is not the hero anyone deserves. I know. I never claimed to be. You guys are, though. You know why? Because we're up at 834 likes. That's not 1,000, but it's getting closer. Oh, Rialan actually pointed this out. I meant to mention this. So, Rialan, credit to you. Did you notice the new emoji? We've got a thick-ass purple dragon for you. So if you're a member of any tier on YouTube, you get access to all of the emojis. We've got a bunch of them. Now, we've got a purple dragon. Rialan noticed it first, I think. Let's see some purple dragons in the chat. Oh, shit, I see him. Canada Dragon has been a tier 1 member for 7 months getting access to those emojis. Says, so I definitely think John and JR 2024 needs to be a thing, and Anna for Senate, the world would be a kinder place. Yes, I will wish that Anna would hold office. It would have been great for Cenk, obviously. I think Anna holding office would be great too. Damn, look at them purple dragons. Thank you, everybody. Anyway, what else do we have for this pre-show? Okay, here's one. I do not want to have a conversation about this. I am just going to point out there's an article on Vice titled "Investors Spent Millions on Evolved Apes NFTs, Then They Got Scammed." So I gotta whip you around so you can see these evolved apes, and then I'll explain. Okay, so there were these NFTs for these. People spent millions to purchase ownership. I could just say ownership of an image. But anyway, ownership of this particular image, millions of dollars. Okay? And there was a rug pull. What is a rug pull? The people who ran it just left with the money. 798 ether, which sounds like something out of one of my novels. $2.7 million, just gone. It's just gone. So that's fun. Anyway, look, is there a racial element to, well, it would seem that there is. But we have 1,000. Thank you very much. Okay. I am obviously not a big fan. It's not that I'm not a big fan of the existence of cryptocurrency. I'm not a big fan of the insane obsession with it, the belief that it's the most important thing that we can be doing or thinking about or talking about, the lack of acknowledgement of the cost of it. But if there was going to be something that was going to make cryptocurrency seem less stupid and scammy, it's going to be NFTs. I get that some people have made money off of it. Hey, look, some people just made money off of it. They made $2.7 million off of it. It's stupid. It's just stupid. It just is. Don't at me. It's just stupid. It's not anything. If I made an NFT of a picture of me doing this, okay, maybe someone would pay $100,000 for it. And thus, technically, it's worth $100,000. But anyone can see the image. Anyone can save the image. It's stupid. It's stupid. Anyway, don't buy an image for $2.7 million. And I know what you're saying, but what's the difference between that and art? Well, a couple things. So, one, presumably, the art is an actual physical thing. You might value that more. And by the way, if you don't value that more, that's totally reasonable. I think art is weird anyway. Anyway, apologies, but I'm getting quite coffee. Okay, Greg Gutfeld had something to say. You know what? We're gonna try to watch the video. Is it worth it? Okay, I'm gonna have to pause this for a sec because we got an ad, and I don't want to watch one of these ads on Mediaite. But yeah. So Greg Gutfeld got all worked up because some people, including me, by the way, felt like, well, I don't follow people into bathrooms, and I would prefer you not to, I guess. I'm not going to write off your protest of Carlson Cinema because that happened to be done. And I acknowledge, as many people are doing, that what she is doing is far worse than following someone into a bathroom. I just coughed up a lung there. I did not cough up a lung. Anyway, he was more angry about these defenders, so let's see if we can...
Kirsten Powers, she's at CNN.
We're gonna
she
whip
said,
you around.
I had this tweet.
So Kirsten Powers,
Your
blah,
grandparents
blah,
being
blah.
deported or being followed into a bathroom
Kirsten
because
Powers
you
is right.
refused to stop and listen.
Okay, Greg
She
Gutfeld.
said, hey, then I think when people called her on this, she said, hey, look, if Kirsten didn't want to be, bothered in the bathroom, she shouldn't have gone to the bathroom. That's kind of like saying you asked for it. This is part of two trends. Biden's okay with that, but they're not okay with hypothetical crimes. What that person did in the bathroom could be construed as a crime, coming in with a camera and filming somebody. But what you're seeing is we are criminalizing the life of an average American decent citizen while we stop targeting criminals. So now you can shoplift anything under $900. You can beat people up on the streets in New York. You get out like that. But hypothetically, you could be a threat, a domestic threat, if they decide that's the case. And so what they're doing is these trends are happening at once. Crime is being decriminalized. Decent citizens are being criminalized at the same time, at the same rate. And it is happening. to the fake
Yeah, that's
feminist,
happening.
Kirsten Powers. Do you remember her? She was a familiar face here, always lecturing us on. It was always about grace. And felt that this was a cause for confrontation. That you have to confront people. That was the same reason that Ashley Babbitt had when she went to the Capitol and she was murdered. An unarmed protester shot dead. Right. I did a search. I couldn't find anything by Kirsten Powers about Ashley Babbitt, like saying, oh my God, this woman went to speak truth to power, no pun intended, and she was murdered. You'd think Kirsten Powers would go like, oh, because you know what they might.
You know, I have to give it to him. He's got a good point. You got the protesters trying to talk to their senator, who won't answer any of their questions, and then you have Ashley Babbitt trying to break through, potentially to murder people. Maybe not. Maybe just willing to, like, you have a gun pointed at you, and you come at it like a zombie, so you're clearly reasonable. That's the same thing. That's what I believe. But, you know, there's a couple thousand of you here. If you disagree, if you think that there is some distinction between those two things, tell me. Well, I can't think of anything. I can't think of any difference between those two things. Let's see, hold on. Ryan says, where do you put the odds of D keeping majority in House and Senate 2022? I think very, very low. Ashley was accompanied by a mob. That's a good point. One is a crime, the other is an inconvenience. Well, he's saying this could be a crime, but it certainly seems more like an inconvenience. Ashley broke into the Capitol. That is true. You know what? You guys might be onto something. She might have been part of a violent mob that was attacking, trying to murder cops and potentially trying to murder Mike. That is actually a difference. You know what? That's a good point. That is actually a difference. We should acknowledge that. Kevin, 100%. Yeah. Look, it's fucking stupid. They weren't trying to kill Kirsten Sinema. They tried to talk to her. They didn't want to go in the bathroom. Maybe they shouldn't have. But they were just trying to talk to her. And by the way, call her office. Does she answer questions there? Does she answer questions outside of the bathroom? Does she answer questions in DC? She doesn't answer questions literally anywhere. That's the issue. And what Greg Gutfeld won't admit is, no, well, first of all, the only reason he's defending Kirsten Sinema is that she's stopping the Democrats from doing what they were doing. If she was being protested by conservatives, he wouldn't give a shit, obviously. Clearly not. When really this should be about, do you have an obligation to explain yourself, to actually represent, to answer questions? And he's perfectly fine with setting up this system where we never make the elected representatives uncomfortable if they're achieving conservative ends. You know, if they're about to lose power, burn down the Capitol. He had no problem with that. The whole thing is just absolute fucking bullshit. Greg Gutfeld. Anyway, I want to play, to close things out for just a minute, we have a little fun bit of video. So Andrew Yang was on with Tucker Carlson, which is its own whole thing. Anyway, they're talking about parties. So here's what Tucker Carlson had to say.
Diversity of points of view, because right now this duopoly is not working for any of us. It's not working for Democrats, Republicans, or independents. And so this is my new project, the Forward Party. Not left or right, but forward.
So that's a third party.
It is a third party, yes, though it's starting out as a PAC because you don't actually become a political party on day one. You have to do a bunch of stuff.
Well, sure. I mean, systems. Ted Kaczynski, I have to say, has written very convincingly on this, the Unabomber. Bad person, but a smart analysis, I think, of the way systems work. And his argument is that large organizations over time morph into purely self-preservation projects, like a big.
Yeah, and so there's a lot there. Yes, he is quoting the Unabomber. That is true. So he's having Andrew Yang on. Let's be very clear about why. Because he believes that Andrew Yang, if the party actually happens, and God only knows if it actually will hurt the Democrats more than the Republicans. Let's just be very clear about that. Now, that has nothing to say about whether it's a good idea for Yang or whether Yang should do it or whatever, but that is why Tucker Carlson is boosting it. And Tucker Carlson there is saying, yes, these parties, they're just about protecting themselves or whatever. because he likes what Yang is doing, and he's critiquing the Democratic Party there. He supports the Republican Party, which according to his argument, or sorry, the Unabomber's argument, also is just a self-preservation thing. He 100% actually supports it. So, and then of course, let's get to the more important point. He's quoting the fucking Unabomber. Now, I know, look, you could make a case that let's divorce what a person has done from whether their point makes sense. That's perfectly fine. But let's also be clear that if Ilhan Omar was to quote some other terrorist, a non-white supremacist terrorist, and just points out that they said something accurate, I don't think they'd be having it on Fox News. I don't think Tucker Carlson would be cool with it. I think Laura Ingraham might have a bit of a problem. Marjorie Greene would explode one of her 3 remaining neurons. Yeah, let's just be very clear about that. And here's the thing. You could just say, you know, you're right. When parties get sort of hardened over time, they're really just about protecting themselves without quoting the fucking Unabomber. That's not even an original thought. That's the only place that you've ever heard that parties change over time, that they grow less responsive to their voters. You have to go to the Unabomber to make that fucking point. Anyway, and by the way, this is 95% a critique of Tucker Carlson. Andrew Yang can do whatever Andrew Yang wants to do, even if I believe that at times his critique of the system seems a bit shallow, but we'll see. He's gonna be on our network later on. I've interviewed Andrew Yang. I think Andrew Yang is a nice guy with some good ideas, who also has some bad ideas and has said some really bad things, and some of his decisions seem questionable. But let's question those things. Anyway, I'm being questioned. Sophie wants me there. We don't have a lot of time, so I gotta run. Okay. I'm going to go do the show. Michael Shore is going to be there. It's going to be awesome. It's Shure's Day Thursdays, so you're not going to want to miss that. You can stay here. You can go to twitch.tv/TYT, and I'll see you there.